Hi, this is Carrie Cooper for Guitar Center's Focus on Rock. Now, when we think about what makes a great rock sound, aside from stellar songwriting, musicianship and skill, there's one particular effect that permeates nearly all rock music to this day, and that is distortion. So what began as what might be described as a happy accident in faulty amplifiers as long as 70 years ago, now defines what makes rock music dirty, naughty and rebellious, and it's hard to imagine that there was ever a time without it. The history of the electric guitar goes back as far as the 1920s, and understandably the progression from an acoustic instrument to an electronic one was far from smooth. Early electric guitars were often hollow, and effectively managing their levels, especially in scenarios of high gain, proved difficult. When tube amps were maxed out beyond their capabilities, this caused the sound to clip, and so, unintentionally, the classic overdrive sound was born. So who were the first rockers to harness distortion, and what impact did that experimentation have on rock music to come? If we look back to the early 1950s and what was happening in the music scene of young Americans, a new style was emerging. Though paying homage to many of its early influences of jazz, gospel and blues, this emerging phenomenon had an identity belonging entirely to itself. It took on distortion as its own. That sound, as American DJ Alan Freed coined it, was rock and roll. From Mike Turner to Johnny Bennett and Link Wray leading the way, a new sound and mind-blowing time in popular music was born. Back in 2006, I had the pleasure of interviewing the great Dave Davies, one half of the Davies Brothers of the Kinks. Now, he told me about the making of You Really Got Me, and it was a little different to what we thought we knew already. The story that had been doing the rounds was that of Ray Davies stabbing the guitar amp with a knitting needle. But Dave insists it was after slashing the amp's cone with a razor blade in a fit of frustration that accidentally created the Kinks' infamous fuzz. Frustrated by, pardon the pun, distortion of the track's history, Dave took to Facebook recently stating, "My brother is lying. I don't know why he does this, but it was my El Pico amp that I bought, and out of frustration I cut the speaker cone up with a razor blade, and I was so shocked and surprised and excited that it worked that I demonstrated the sound to Ray and to Pete, Kinks bassist." Ray liked the sound, and he had written a riff on the piano which formed the basis of the song You Really Got Me. And so I played the riff on my guitar with my new sound. I alone created the sound, he said in capital letters. So what rock acts would not exist if it hadn't been harnessed in this way? Well, to be honest, most of them. Led Zeppelin, Nirvana, Metallica, Van Halen, Black Sabbath, The Doors, Jeff Beck, Smashing Pumpkins, to mention a few. And though an extremely happy accident, distortion is now actively sought out, and far from being something that studio engineers work to eliminate, it continues to be celebrated. A plethora of technologies have been and continue to be designed in order to create that fuzzy overdrive that remains to this very day the ultimate sonic signature of great rock music the world over. This is Carrie Cooper for Guitar Center's Focus on Rock. You can shop for the greatest selection of music gear on earth in store or at guitarcenter.com.